Shalom, shalom, Israel. Let's see. Shalom, Israel. If everybody can hear me, if I could get a one in the chat, if y'all can hear me all right. I get a one in the chat if y'all can hear me okay. Or is the sound not working? Got Trooper Yagadar in the building. Can you hear me all right, Troop? Con. All right. Shalom, shalom. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge under Commanding General Yohana. Started out at 1 West 125th Street in Harlem, New York in 1969. And we are not affiliated with any other Christian or any other Israelite or Christian group. Tonight is the history class, and as you all can see, um, from the title, we have a kind of a follow up to the last class we did before the Feast of First Fruits. So we're going to get into some more history, specifically out of Northern Virginia. But we all know Northern Virginia, whether it be Northern Virginia, the whole state of Virginia, or the whole country. These things that we are going to cover happen um, to our people all over this wicked kingdom. So just we're going to do a little bit of recap of the information we went over last week. The name of the study. This is a study that was done in 2021 out of by a professor that is at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University. Let me get his name. Where is it? What's that dude? I had it right here a second ago. It has ran away from me. I think it was a wolf. Y'all give me 1 second. Bear with me. I want to make sure I get y'all the information. All right. Uh, there it is. Stephen Wolf. Stephen Wolf. He is a professor at Virginia Commonwealth University. He did this study in 2021. And what it covers is the oppression of our people, Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Indians. Obviously, he focuses on Black people, so-called Judites. But we know these type of oppressions that we're going to talk about apply to all 12 tribes of Israel. Now, this was centered in Northern Virginia, and I mean, honestly, it's a decent study for the most part. It tracks and it covers our oppression starting predominantly shortly after slavery so-called ended, the Emancipation Proclamation, and it walks up to present day in a lot of different ways, and we'll go over some of that tonight. So again, this is a little bit of recap. He breaks the study out basically into like five main sections. Um, the five main sections is one, just freedom itself, right? Post uh, after, like I said, after the Emancipation Proclamation. Yahweh Shem Rasha- Oh, Salaki, I didn't even say that. To the brothers, Yahweh Shem Rasharakatah. To the sisters, Yahweh Shemar Alathan, by Hashem Yahweh Shah. Salaki. I see Trooper Kazaki is in the building. Um, but yeah, he breaks out the study into five major categories. One is the idea of just being free post slavery itself. The second is building wealth. Um, and buying property. Now we got into a little bit of that last time. We're going to get into some more of it tonight. And then he gets into the education piece, finding jobs, and then he calls it civil liberties. Now, we're not going to get into all of those because this comes from a, I'll call it a neoliberal perspective. Again, this is Esau, and the tone of a lot of this study is how terrible segregation was, and that's why the Great Integration came. So let me be absolutely clear. I'm going to say this multiple times tonight. The lesson tonight is not that segregation was bad. That's not it. It's not that we needed integration. All right, integration, for the record, was one of the worst things to happen to Blacks, Hispanic, and Native Indians. It completely destroyed our communities. It sucked all of our resources out, and it left us in a terrible state. When we were by ourselves, and we're going to get into some of that again tonight, when we were by ourselves, we were doing much better in a lot of ways. This author, again, and this is Esau, actually references, and we'll get to it, a particular stat that was better in 1960, which was, I think, what was it, 65, 67, something like that, that the so-called civil rights bill was passed, maybe 68. Either way, um, years before that, this particular stat was better than it is today. All right. So again, we're going to get into some of it. But again, recapping a little bit from last week, we talked about how Slovakia. Yeah, we talked about how once we came out of you know full slavery, full before the Emancipation Proclamation, we'll call it that because we're still in slavery in this country. Um, we talked about how there were laws passed to keep us. Slovakia. We talked about how there were laws passed to then move us from the plantation into the prison system, right? Because when you read the 13th Amendment, it talks about how slavery is, abolished or whatever, except for the punishment of crime. That's the option. That's the loophole that was written into the so-called Emancipation Proclamation. So after that, um, different cities and states and I think even federal laws, they started passing laws so that to make it illegal for us to do normal things. They started making it illegal to you kind of hanging out with your partners. Oh no, now you're loitering and you're going to jail. All these type of things that normal people do every day. They started passing laws so that they could then arrest us, put us in jail, and now have us right back in slavery. Sister Tawana's in the building. What's going on, sis? Um, and so we went over those things last week. We went over that how those laws being passed, not last week, Salaki, week before last. We went over how those laws being passed then tied directly into the police force who uh, originated out of the slave patrol. So they went from policing slaves and their whereabouts to now, or it's like a catching slaves to now so-called policing so-called citizens, right? That were purposefully being discriminated and purposefully being targeted with laws that made absolutely no sense, right? Um, so then that takes it. Oh, and we also talked about the communities that were displaced: Joplin and Batestown and Freedmen's Village, Fort Ward, Macedonia and Seminary, Queen City and East Arlington, all um, Black communities that were started by our people, um, former slaves that started from nothing, thrived, and then eventually were completely wiped out because they wanted to build a park or wanted to put a museum there or wanted to build the Pentagon or highways toward the Pentagon. These are all things that happen in this state. All right. So now we're going to get into um, the idea of wealth building and property ownership, and how that was another uh, systematic and purposeful form of oppression to keep our people on the bottom, right? Keep our people um, in a position, or in the same position that we're in today, right? Um, now the what Esau likes to say in this country is that, um, and it's even quoted in here, and we'll get to it, but that the ownership of property and land is the primary, wealth driver for the country, right? For citizens in the country. That is an absolute lie. Because, well, no, I'm not even gonna say it. Who can tell me what the primary wealth driver is in America? Who can tell me the primary resource, the 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 catalyst that helps build wealth in America? Super call Sabar in the building. Yabba Shabba Shabba Kata. Who can tell me what the primary catalyst for building wealth has historically been in this country? Black money. La land. La I'm not gonna go with that yet. Y'all all have you both are good answers, just not fully historically. That's more recent. So you gotta think about how old this wicked kingdom is and what has been the primary wealth driver historically. Game Troopy. It's like a give up so y'all can die. Absolutely. Us. Us. And it has been our labor, though. Not necessarily our money, but our labor. It because again, we all know slavery was what it was, and there's been multiple multi-million dollar businesses created in some way, shape, or form associated with slave trade, associated with our free labor, right? And again, once the so-called Emancipation Proclamation was done or written, then they just started locking us up, which then allowed them to continue to have slave labor, right? And there's a multi-million dollar businesses that continue to benefit from that low, that low cost labor. Our brothers Issachar, the so-called immigrants that come over to this country, right? All the Latinos, to be honest. How many times do you hear them complain? Con, get a brother in hand. Exactly. Labor, innovation, and ingenuity. That's what they have. That's what has benefited this country primarily, right? It's us. It's been our labor. It's been our ingenuity. It's been the things that we do that we bring to this country, right? The general said all the time, especially you think about the wars that this country have been in. No people, no group of people, no race of people has had more patriotism for this country than blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We're going to get into some of it. We have been completely treated like trash, and we still fight in all of their wars. We still fought. We fought in their wars, and we continue to fight in their wars. Right? World War II. You had brothers over in Europe. Uh, to be honest, living relatively well because they didn't have the same type of beat down second class citizenship that we had here or had here. And so they would go over there, risk their lives. Many brothers died, and they come back, and then they're reminded that you mean nothing in this country. Exactly. We have a pimp prostitute relationship with this oppressor. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Um, So yeah, that's the true primary driver of wealth in this country. And behind that, right. But behind that, who can tell me? Y'all may not get this one. But what's the second primary wealth driver historically? Now, this for this one, y'all got to think about who Esau is, what his character is. Okay, we got land, la not yet. Prisons, la not yet. Who else want to give it a shot? Oil, la I'm gonna give it to y'all. I'm gonna give it to y'all because I don't think anybody gonna get it. Let me see. Rip said holiday money, especially from us. But no, that's not right. That's a good guess. All good guesses, right? Crime in some way, shape, or form. Esau gets paid off of crime. You think about things like the prohibition, monetizing our disobedience. Again, I think you're speaking about the imprisonment, right? I think you are, Officer Yagadar. Let me know. To me, that's along the same lines of enslavement because it's all the same thing. But the reason I say crime is because as long as Esau commits a crime, oh, he can make a whole business out of that. He can make an entire business out of a complete crime, something that he has deemed to be illegal. Think about the prohibition. How much money was made in the prohibition? Honestly, our enslavement is really a war crime. How much land, and this goes back to what Officer Chuba Kazaki was saying as far as land. Now, all of this land was stolen. All of this land was stolen, right? But that's a crime. That is a war crime. Khan, the mafia, exactly. As long as Esau is the one committing the crime, then there can be an entire business built on it. Now, if Israelites so much as walk across the street wrong, now you're going to be a slave. We're going to have you in all out slavery. Call support, trooper call support, absolutely. Drugs, yes, absolutely. That's one too. I mean, and again, you think about marijuana now. UPK is completely against smoking marijuana, believe that. But how many brothers are locked up for selling marijuana right now? And all these companies are now selling it with no problem. How many brothers are locked up for selling heroin right now? Big Pharma pushed Percocets and everything else all day long. As long as they're committing the crime, it's okay. Make sure I'm not missing. Oh, okay. It's like you meant taxing us on what we own. I got you. Let me see what else. Officer Yagadar says crime, drugs, prostitution, abortion, holiday cigarettes. Yes, they make money on us not following the Most High's laws. Absolutely. Esau started opening up clinics once they seen their people on heroin. Exactly. But they locked our people up and gave them hockey numbers. Exactly. Exactly. Con. Person caught with no, you can't. You're confusing me. What you say that? Oh, I got you. I got what you're saying. All right. She said a person caught with cocaine is what she meant and get less time for crack, which is the same drug. Exactly. Exactly. Um, and billions off drugs. Con. That's exactly what I mean. They will make billions off of the same drugs that they lock us up on. Right. So again, now gotta be clear. UPK is not advocating. I'm not talking about that you should deal drugs, use drugs, none of it. The whole point is Esau does this. Esau will take something that he deems to be a crime for us and it'll turn into a business for him. All right. Now, after all of that, yes, land is how what they would call their middle class. That's what they call it. That's how the middle class builds wealth, right? So if you don't have some billion-dollar business or you haven't committed some crime that you turned into $1 billion and you don't have, all this slave labor and you're Esau, then you have the opportunity to build wealth through land ownership. Clearly, we don't meet the first two categories. We don't have billion-dollar businesses. Most of us don't, anyway. The vast majority of us absolutely don't. And we don't have the ability to take advantage of slave labor yet, because that's coming. But so we also we're going to get into this. It was systematically and continues to be systematically excluded for us to have the chance to have land ownership so that we can build generational wealth. All right. Brother Cost Trooper Cost says good book about mass incarceration by Michelle Alexander breaks down incarceration in this country. We have the biggest incarceration rate in the world. Khan, you are absolutely right. I want to say it's something like 20. We house 25% of the world's uh, uh, prisoners. I think it is. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Um, Khan, the new Jim Crow, absolutely. Officer Yagadar says, I've seen several politicians, aka lawmakers, get caught with crack, heroin, fentanyl, you name it, and they get rehab and a paid vacation. Absolutely, because as long as Esau do it, it's okay. It's all right. He needs see when he Esau do something, he need help. He needs support. When we do something, it's because we're just criminals. We're just the lowest of the low, and there's no helping us, and so on and so forth. But you know what? To a certain extent, I mean, Esau's doing what he's supposed to do, which is looking out for his people. We should be doing that too. We should be looking out for our people. Our problem is we're the ones following behind Esau, doing all these drugs, doing everything we're not supposed to do, everything that's against the Most High. And that's why we're in the position we're in. Khan at a cost apart. We have more prisoners. Khan, I think you quoted, yep, more prisoners than all the population put together. We have 25% of the world's con. Exactly. Exactly. I can't remember what this country's portion of the overall population is, but I know it's the majority of the prisoners are here. It's 25%. We all know we don't have 25% of the population of the world here. But it's all big business, and it's all about using, continuing to use Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians for slave labor. All right. Now we're gonna get into the land piece of it. All right. So this study that it talks about again is talking about the quote unquote wealth gap, and it's walking kind of post slavery through today. All right. It says the black white wealth gap has lasted generations because in a country where land is the prime financial asset for wealth building, which is why I clarified that. That is an absolute lie. It's not the prime asset, prime financial asset for wealth building. It's slave labor and crime. But it probably comes in third, especially in the more recent times, right? It says in a country where land is a prime financial asset for wealth building, policies have persistently thwarted the efforts of black families to buy and retain land or homes. This was never for lack of effort by prospective black property owners, because even we'll get into your understand as we go on. Even shortly after slavery, we understood we need to get some land. We need to buy some land. We need to build some communities. We understood that even then. So it wasn't because we weren't interested or weren't trying to buy homes or houses or land. It says in the 1800s, formerly enslaved black families were eager to buy land, build houses, and open businesses. It's what we do. We are an industrious people. Um, it says they built dozens of enclaves stretching from western Prince William County to Alexandria waterfront. Now, we defined that word last week, last class. I want to define it again. It is such a great word. All right. Enclave. It says a distinct territorial, cultural, or social unit enclosed within or as if within foreign territory. It's such a perfect word to use right there, because we are in foreign territory here. If we go to Jeremiah 16, we'll start at verse 11. It says, come on, come on. Verse 16, Salakia. Jeremiah 16, verse 11 says, then shalt thou say unto them, because your fathers have forsaken me, saith the Most High. Our forefathers turned their backs on the Most High. Our forefathers started following other cultures. That's partly why we're in the position we're in. The other part is we continue to do it, right? Oh, no sweat. 25% of the world's prison population. No sweat. You're right. Kind of. But yeah, our forefathers turned their backs on the Most High. Our forefathers decided they wanted to follow other cultures, break the law, statutes, and commandments, and so the Most High removed his protection, right? Goes on, it says, and have walked with other gods. Again, following other cultures, worshiping other gods. We've been in everything. We're still in everything. We're in Christianity. We're in Islam. We're in Buddhism. We're in Hinduism. What is it? They're burning people, burning sage, astrology. Listen, I'm surprised when I hear blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians talking about they're reading their horoscope. I'm like, huh? And then when you might go online and hear all these people talking about their different signs and what that means, and I'm like, where do y'all get? I mean, I know where they get it from. Obviously, you following these other cultures. That's not our culture, right? But that was our forefathers, and that's us now. It goes on, and have served them, and have worshipped them, and have forsaken me, and have not kept my law. That's what we're doing. That's what our people are out here doing. We're not following the laws. Most of our people don't even know what these laws are, because most of our people are Christian. That's our biggest battle. So they don't even understand what the laws are, much less that they're supposed to be following, because their Christian pastor teaches them, oh, you got, God loves everybody, and just come back and pray to the Most High and tell him you sorry and say it in Jesus' name. And matter of fact, they say Jesus is God, and then you be fine. Right. Blind leading the blind. Absolutely. Um, and then we continue to do it, right? So that was our forefathers did it, and then we continue. Our people now continue to do it. We don't do that in the ISUPK. We follow the law, statutes, and commandments. But the rest of our people, which is why we're trying to wake everybody up, get them to understand, y'all got to come back to these law, statutes, and commandments. All right. Verse 12, it says, "And ye have done worse than your fathers." What is this month? Who can tell me? Who can tell me what this month is in Esau's world? There we go. All right. All right. Juneteenth is this month, but that's not the one I was looking for. Your trooper Kazaki at hand. You have Officer Yagadar at hand. It is the LGBTQ month. It is Pride Month out here. They are the proud rainbow people. Now, scriptures say, "And ye have done worse than your fathers." Don't get it wrong. There's always been that, which is why there's a law against it, against the alphabet community. But nowadays, there's no shame. They are absolute. Matter of fact, we were just speaking about that scripture the other day. Give me 1 second to find that precept. Where? Come on. I'm gonna get that one later. I gotta find that precept. But the scriptures talk about being proud in your sin, and that's what this is. That's what this is. This is what this wicked kingdom allows our people to do. It allows our people to be a part of the alphabet community and be proud of it, to have it on full display as if it's something to be celebrated. And that's exactly what this entire month is about. It's about celebrating something that the Most High calls an abomination, but they're proud to do it. That's what this kingdom does. So it says you have done worse than your fathers, because there was a time, Khan, sister says, and push it on our children and the world. Absolutely. Absolutely. There was a time though that, that was shunned. There was a time that was if you were part of the alphabet community, you had to you couldn't just be out there with that. You couldn't be just flamboyant with it. That was going to be a problem for you. You were inviting some issues because our community knew that was not something that we needed to perpetuate and celebrate. Our community knew that was something that was not right. So now, especially in our community, when did it first start becoming um, more acceptable? In the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community, when did it first start to become more acceptable to be part of the LGBTQ community? There was a certain space that Obama La'a. I get where you're going though, because he did a number. But it was before that. There was a particular space that in our communities, integration, there was a particular space. Maybe me rephrase. There was a particular place you could you could go and see someone from the alphabet community, and it was just ignored and accepted as if it was no big deal. Give my rib a hand. Right. The choir, the church choir. Everybody, listen, if you were ever in the Christian church, obviously y'all can said Atlanta. God, God, that whole entire city, from what I understand. You are absolutely right. There it is. Give Chupi Kazaki a hand. The Christian church. That's right. The Christian church was kind of like, if you think back, you could if you I'm dating myself a little bit, but if you were in the Christian church at a certain time, you had a full understanding that being part of that community was not acceptable, was not cool, you know. But every week when you fell up in the church, you might be looking at the church director like, now everybody knows that this dude ain't got no business up there. Right. The choir director, the piano player. God. Exactly. Playing the tambourine. Exactly. Exactly. That's where it first kind of, like, if you were young enough to still be in school, you didn't see that in school at that time. You didn't see that out in public on a regular basis. And again, we're talking about in the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community. You didn't see that in our community like that. Outside of Sunday morning. When they're going in them churches, get to singing them, get to singing them hymns. You look up in the choir and it's like, hey, well, clearly, he's playing for the other team. That was the beginning of it. I'm not even sure she's trying to say Trooper Kazaki. I'm not sure what that means. You might have to tell me how to explain it or something. Help me out. But yeah, that was where it first started. They didn't and don't have it. So actually, I'm gonna say la to that. You say they didn't and don't have it in the oppressor's church. They do. They don't allow it to be displayed. That's the only difference. They absolutely have it. Between that and child molestation, they absolutely have it. What they don't accept is for somebody to come in with it on full display. Y'all wilding. You said, Officer Yagadar said he be singing soprano. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, Khan, no sweat, sis. Yeah, she says that's what she meant to say. Yeah, it's not on display in them churches. It's not on display in the churches. It's just on display in our church. And that is what began the movement. Oftentimes, so now you go forward a generation, and now you go to school and you see middle school, and it's on display. And they do that in Esau's world too. They do that in Esau's world too. but they still keep it. It's like they still keep it out of their church, but we don't. Exactly. It's just not as flamboyant in Esau's church. Exactly. It's definitely there. It's definitely there, and they're all aware of it. It's just not on display the same way it is in the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian community. Uh, oh, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, because I can they allow the code dressing in daycare. Oh, wait a minute. So they allow cross dressing in daycare. Now, for those who don't know, my rib is in the daycare industry, and she's saying they allow cross dressing in the daycare. That is good night. How do I see right? Say, well, goddamn, what? I don't even know what to say. That's. I mean, how wicked can you be? How wicked can you be to destroy the innocence of a child? But again, that's not far from child molestation. That is not far from child. That's damn. If that's not in the ballpark, I don't know what is. Esau Church is the priest. Let's see. Because Esau Church is the priest and the youth pastor in our churches. It's the choir director in our right. And Esau's churches is the priest and the youth pastor, and ours is the choir director and ushers. Yep, kind of. All right, but we're gonna get back to it. We were eager to own land. These enclaves. Oh, did I finish the scripture? Salaki. I think got so sidetracked. Salaki. We getting it in tonight. Um, yes, it says, and ye have done worse than than your fathers. Because again, this was not something that was accepted generations ago. This is something that has gotten worse and worse in our community. It says, and behold, ye walk everyone after the imagination of his evil heart. What does that mean? If I can think it up, I can do it. If I can imagine it, if it comes up in my head, I'm absolutely within my rights to do it. Absolutely not. You're completely wrong. Con. Esau turned things upside down. Absolutely. The Christian church teaches you essentially, hey, whatever you feel like you can do, you can do. That's where that whole God knows my heart thing comes from. We were just talking the other day. Listen, the biggest drug dealer in your neighborhood is a Christian. The biggest drug dealer in your neighborhood is an absolute Christian. And right before he goes out on the block and starts serving all the fiends, he probably tells himself, you know what, God knows my heart because I got to feed my family. The biggest whore and the biggest prostitute, God knows my heart. I got to feed my family. All those, all these sisters on the stripper pool, we were just talking the other day. And somebody told me that the strippers pray before they go out. I was like, what? Yeah, they got to pray that, pray to the Most High. They pray to Jesus. They don't pray to Yahushua. They don't pray to the Most High. They pray to Jesus. That the brothers make it right. Because God knows my heart. This is what the Christian church has done to destroy our people. People should not go bar in the building. How about Shabbat? Damn. And it made Jesus part of the LGBTQ community too? This is crazy. Right. I ain't putting that up there. Obviously, y'all can tell. But yes, I heard that they circle up and pray before they go out there and get on the pole. This is Christianity. This is Christianity. They circle up, pray, take the money, go give a portion of it to the church the next morning, and they think they're okay. They think they're all right. Sister Nine billion. How Shema about Allah Salaki. Yahweh Shema Allah Thun by Shema Shah. That's another good point, Truba Kazaki. That rainbow. They have adopted the rainbow, which is in the scriptures as a sign that the Most High would not flood the earth again. They've adopted that as their mascot, as their representation. Proud of this sin, doing it in full just comfort. They are okay. No thanks to the Christian church telling them essentially you can do whatever you want. Just ask Jesus for forgiveness. Come on, it's just wicked. All right, let's keep going. It says, and it's like it that they may not hearken unto me. We don't listen to the Most High. We absolutely don't. As a whole, when you come into this body, you're listening to the Most High. But by and large, our people do not do that, which is why we have to continue teaching so that we can wake our people up. All right. Verse 13, and this goes back to this enclave that we were talking about. It says, therefore will I cast you out of this land into a land that ye know not. We are in a foreign land here. Our people also have this strange this strange perspective that they are American citizens. I mean, it sounds good. It's absolute nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. And I don't understand how you can be fully aware of the history of this kingdom and think that as a Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian that you are a citizen. I mean, we are, but not really. Not really. I mean, on paper. On paper. But how often do we see our people's rights being absolutely disrespected, not taken into account, with no recourse, with no follow up, with nobody being held accountable for it? You can't convince me that my people are citizens of this country when you let your police force kill them, and so many of them go home. Unless there's a video that maybe comes out several months later, and then, oh yeah, now we got to do something. You can't convince me that when my people were drug addicts, that they were criminals, as we said earlier, but when your people were drug addicts, they needed help. You can't convince me that my people are citizens then. Some of what we're going to get into tonight, you can't convince me that my people are citizens when you stole their land after you stole the land of the Native Indians. You can't convince me that we're citizens. Man, actually, Yagadak said, I think a lot of our people feel safer being a sodomite than a Black citizen. There's probably some absolute truth in that. Absolute truth in that. Because if you are a sodomite, you have taken on Esau's culture. You also are an effeminate man. You're soft. And so you're not looked at as a threat. Esau's not concerned about you because, one, you've assimilated to his culture, so much so that you've given up your manhood. So you're probably absolutely right. That was a great point, Officer Yagada. All right, let's keep going. Says, neither ye nor your fathers and there ye shall serve other gods day and night, where I will not show you favor. Again, this is the Most High telling us, explaining very clearly, you have not followed my laws. I'm going to send you into a foreign land. You're going to serve other gods, and I'm not going to show you favor. If this is not, if we're not, children of Israel, if people don't understand it, I don't know how. I do not understand how. All right, let's keep going. Uh, okay, it talks about the enclaves. It says, however, when the turn of the 20th century brought expanded railroads, trolleys, and road services from the District of Columbia to um, northern Virginia, and heightened demand for suburban housing, developers and politicians aggressively sought land belonging to black families. So at this point, there's a boom in demand. Now we have land. We don't have a lot of it, but we have land. And now because there's a boom and there's a need, and now people want our property, right? It says in 1912, Virginia authorized segregation districts, making it legal for local governments to segregate neighborhoods, and action taken by the city of Falls Church in 1915. When the U.S. Supreme Court banned such ordinance in 1917, white communities in Arlington and Fairfax enacted restrictive covenants that prohibited sales to non-Caucasian buyers. Zoning policies, discriminatory lending, zoning policies, discriminatory lending practices that prevented black buyers from obtaining mortgages, pricing pressures, and physical threats kept black families from buying property in more affluent white areas and segregated the black population into smaller enclaves. Again, this is not a class promoting integration. All right, this is going somewhere. Y'all just bear with me. All right, but clearly, uh, they wanted to keep us separate, which is fine. We should have been. What did I miss? How you got it? He said they got a visibility cloak. It's purple, so they feel protected. I hear you. I hear you, Officer Young Dog. All right. Let's keep going. It says, here's now again. They're uh, they're keeping us segregated. Fine. We don't. I don't have a problem with that. We don't have a problem with that in the UPK. That would have been just fine in and of itself, right? But it goes on. It says white control of public utilities and transportation stifled economic growth in black communities. Decades after paved roads ceased, after paved roads eased access to white subdivision, black communities were still served by dirt roads and went without municipal services such as sewer, water, and street lights. Now, the interesting thing here is we were still paying property tax. Everybody, we were just sister just referenced property taxes earlier. Those are the things they're supposed to pay for that. So what were they doing? Taking our resources and building up their community. Taking our resources and building up their community, allowing us to just stay in the states that we were in. And even with that, our communities thrived and flourished because all we need to do, as Zephaniah, matter of fact, let me go there. Zephaniah 2:1 says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. Even with that, even not having the amenities and the services, our communities thrive. Because what we need to do first is gather ourselves together, be with each other, among each other, have our separate communities. When we have those things, then we can thrive. And it happened multiple times, multiple places around this wicked country. But Esau being Esau, between jealousy and fear, destroyed our communities. Let's keep going. Uh, come on, stop. Says black homeowners with limited educational opportunities, few job options, and depreciating property values often lack the finances to modernize their homes. So you have a situation where you put us all in the same spot. You limit our resources, you limit our education, you limit our job opportunities, and then our property values, you devalue that. And then we have no way of keeping up our property. We have no way at times of keeping up our communities. Now, this is we're going a little forward now, right? Because federally subsidized mortgages that became available in the 1930s, see, we're going forward a little bit, were approved almost exclusively for white buyers and routinely denied to black buyers, especially those seeking homes outside of red line areas. Who's heard of redlining before? Oh, yes, kind of like who's heard of redlining before? All right, Con. Who else? Kind of like who knows what redlining is? Because Tawana said Con. Who else? Kind of like who knows? Who's heard of redline before? Officer Yagadar Khan. Has anybody not heard of redlining? It's not Khan. All right. All right. Seems like most everybody's heard of it. Good stuff. We'll keep going. Um, it says the disinvestment, they count, the disinvestment and resulting housing decay in black neighborhoods played into the hands of developers and politicians Salaki, who rebranded black enclaves as blight. Great word. Blight. Who's familiar with that word? Blight. Let's look that up. They rebranded them as blight, which means one of the definitions is a deteriorated condition. So they kept resources, financial resources from the communities after they built them up, right? As much as they could. Then they started to keep resources from them. Okay, blight. Yes, it means a deteriorated condition. So what they did was we were in our own communities, we were building them up as much as we could, but then Esau kept financial resources from us in addition to different services. So then, as time goes on, some of our communities started to deteriorate because now we don't have the resources to keep them up, right? You might need to take a loan out to fix your roof. You might need to take a loan out to fix something on the house. Maybe sometimes there's just maintenance that has to happen, right? If anybody's ever lived in an apartment complex with a slumlord, they're just things that need to be fixed. Over time, things are going to need to be fixed, and if they're not, it just has a way of running down the community. That's just what happens. If you don't maintain it, if you don't keep it up, you're gonna need to paint sometime. You're gonna need to, I don't know, power wash the building. You might need to fix some bricks. You might need to fix the railing. Who knows? The staircase might need to be fixed. The banister might need to be fixed. I don't even know if they had elevators back then. Those might need to be fixed, right? This general building ownership, right? There are different things that happen with, when you're having your own home or whatever, but it's always going to take maintenance. You're always going to have something to do. And when you hold back the resources that don't allow people to maintain their homes, and when you do that to an entire community over enough time, it starts to deteriorate the entire community. Con. We build them, they steal them back. Con. Right. Asphalt, decks, plumbing, roof. Right. All of those things over time are going to need to be maintained. And if you hold back the resources from an entire community, then over time, the houses are going to just start to fall. They're going to start to deteriorate. So what they would do then, developers and politicians, because they're looking at the land, like, yeah, that'd be a good spot to go take over, right? So let's just let these entire communities of Black, Spanish, and Native Indians, just let them continue to go bad. Let's let them continue to get worse and worse. No, 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 don't give them no money. Not yet. Probably not at all. Let's keep it real. We're gonna keep reading. But no, they don't need no money. They're fine. Over a long enough timeline, guess what? Now the entire community is blight. Con, all right, con. Brother said he came across that word during some paperwork reading. All right. So yeah, now over a long enough time period, the entire community is blight. So now they would cite violations of housing codes and authorize developers to clear Black properties for new construction. So now that the entire community is run down, you know what? We're going to authorize you as the city, because now we're trying to keep up the city or the community or the county or whatever. So now we need you developers and contractors, construction folks, y'all go in there and build it back up. But in order to do that, they have to take the property. All right. Um, it says by World War II, and you can see how we're going forward in time. It says by World War II, suburban development, restrictive covenants, and discriminatory lending had pushed Arlington's once widely dispersed Black population into three small enclaves. So before this, we were kind of scattered. We were still together, but we were kind of scattered, right? In Northern Virginia. And after that, we were basically in three communities. And all of the properties that we had owned before have been destroyed and built back up and given to Esau. Says in the 19th century, which is, I always get this confused. 1800s is 19th century. So it's the 19th century. Black communities that once dotted Fairfax and Loudoun County were gone. They were absolutely gone. Exactly, Officer Yagada. It's crazy because now all you see up there is heathen. All you see up there is Esau and these other nations. And we were all throughout there until they destroyed our communities, took our land, and rebuilt them up. This is again. This is Tulsa. This is Rosewood. This is San Clemente, right here in Virginia, and everywhere. Because again, those are the famous ones we know about. Those three are the famous ones that a lot of our people know about those. But our people don't know about this stuff happening here. And if it happened in Northern Virginia, guess where else it happened? It happened in Richmond. It happened in Richmond. It happened in Hampton Roads area. It happened out there. It happened in Petersburg, Emporia, Southampton County, all of that. It happened in all these places. Norfolk, Suffolk, con. Chicken fried rice and Slurpees everywhere you look. And it's expensive to live there. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So we're gonna keep going. Who's familiar with the GI Bill? Who's familiar with the GI Bill? Kana la'a. Kana la'a. Who's familiar with the GI Bill? Sister Tawana said Khan. Officer Yagador. Khan. He said he got robbed for it. Go go ahead on that a little bit more, Officer Yagador. What do you mean by that? All right, my rib said like, no problem. We can get into it a little bit. Who else? Who else got a? Who else? Kana la'a. Y'all chime in. Okay. Trooper Kazaki said Khan. All right. Before I go on, talk to me about this. You get robbed for it. I gotta know. If you could sum it up anyway. If it's too long, I understand. Don't worry about it. No sweat. Let's see. They paid for it, but got put out a month shy of the requirement for me to redeem it. Ah, Con. That's tough. That's tough. That's damn shame. Yeah. Yeah. Our pressure is the devil the Bible speaks of. You're absolutely right. So the GI Bill, my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Officer Yagadar. My understanding of the GI Bill is that it was a special uh, financing program so that ex-military or even enlisted military, I believe, had special financing to purchase houses. Let me know, Officer Yagadar, if that's a good synopsis of it. Oh, Con, Slocky, you know what? And it just says that housing and education. The water. All right. So this goes into that. It says the GI Bill widened the wealth gap by helping a generation of white veterans obtain college tuition and home loans to launch quote unquote middle class lives. Remember what I was saying? These type of things are about so-called middle class, uh, uh, our oppressors who are in the so-called middle class. Con. Okay, so it's no interest or nowadays low interest. Con. All right. Um, It says while greatly limiting those opportunities for black veterans, meaning they allowed these white veterans to get these benefits of the tuition and these low interest loans, so that again, which is what catapulted them to build generational wealth. They kept that from our people. The same veterans who went to the same war, because this is post World War II. All right, this is post World War II that this came into effect. So they limited our access to it, but gave it to their, their people. It says, despite the housing boom, Northern Virginians, so like in Northern Virginia's supply of housing that is affordable did not keep pace with the population growth. All right. Says the growth of largely white suburbs and outlying areas of Northern Virginia led to the expansion of the interstate highways throughout Northern Virginia. Planners routed these highways through black neighborhoods, creating corridors of low priced property. So even here, there was a boom in housing. Everybody wanted to move to Northern Virginia, right? No problem. But in order to get people to these suburbs, but specifically these white suburbs. Well, now we got to build some highways. Well, what are we gonna build the highways to? Well, just take them through the black community. Again, wipe out the black community. This stuff is amazing. Oppressor is the devil, the Bible speaks of. So again, now we're walking forward, right? Now we're going to talk about the effect, the impact of this home ownership that they made sure we, in home and land ownership, that they made sure that we could not have. And even if we did, we were in low value areas, right? Why were we in low value areas? Who can tell me why our areas were low value? Oh, okay. Let's see. Yagador said Esau got lower rates anyways, but combined with the GI Bill, they got land, property, and businesses. We got a variable interest rate that skyrocketed over time and worn down neighborhoods on the other side. Con, exactly. Let's see. Rib says we couldn't afford anything more due to the broken homes and men not being able to provide. All right. Officer Yagadar says they control property taxes and how they are administered throughout communities. All right. So both of those answers are true. No doubt about it. All right. But how can I explain it? What drives what drives property value? Who can tell me what drives property value? What makes property value go up? Anybody have an idea what if you live in a certain neighborhood, you bought it at X amount of dollars, right? What makes that property value increase over time? I want to give it a shot. All right, another home being purchased for more. Okay, you in the ballpark. Yes, that's true. What would why would that happen? Why would another home that's in your neighborhood be purchased for more? Let's see. Officer Yagadar says curb appeal, distance to vision schools, access. Okay, that's all. Y'all right there. Y'all right there. Um, Give me 1 second. So, um, y'all are right there though. But okay. All right. The neighborhood has curb appeal. It has distance to businesses and schools, education. I can work out here. Okay. It has all of that, and it's a little simpler than what y'all making it, but that's okay. I understand. So it has all of that, No, you're not reaching. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's supply and supply and demand. The demand is there. People want to live out there, so the prices go up. Because if you don't want to live in an area, if I buy a house out in the sticks and nobody wants to live out there, should I expect the value of my property to go up? Absolutely not, because nobody else wants to live out here. So why were our communities valued less? We're gonna give it a shot. You know, right there, get a sister a hand. No one wants to live where the oppressor push drugs and crime. No one wants to live around niggas. And we're so downtrodden as time went on, we didn't even want to live around us. We didn't want to, a lot of times we didn't want to live around us then. We were forced to. But even with that, think about it like this. The people who had money was the oppressor. They were the ones that could pay top dollar. We couldn't because of the systematic oppression that we're subject to. So we're forced to live where we can live. Captain knocked us up in the shot a couple of weeks ago. We was at camp and we were talking, and he was like, Black Hispanics and Native Indians, we eat what's cheap because we don't got money like that. We eat what's cheap. We live where it's cheap because we don't got money like that. Those who have it don't want to live around us. But we don't have we're not to ourselves and separate. We're still captive in this wicked kingdom. So we get the negative impact of all of this. Even the idea of building generational wealth, and that's where the guy who wrote this, like, he's missing it. But again, he's Esau, so of course you're gonna miss it. His thing is, well, they weren't given the same opportunities and so on and so forth. And it's like, yeah, that's not, it's by design that we weren't given the same. They don't want to live around us. They just want our resources. They want our money. They want us to buy their resources and then go back to our community. They want us to buy their goods and then go back to our community. They want to take the resources and then kick us back into the community. Stay over there. And because of that, there was no. It's all by design. No, there's no plan for us to have build generational wealth. No. Matter of fact, anything you earn, this is Esau talking. Anything you earn, you come give it to me, so I can build up my communities over here. Because no one likes you anyway. No one wants to be around you. So on and so forth. But again, you just left us alone. And we're gonna get into. I'm gonna have to skip forward a little bit. We're gonna get into some of these stories of how we thrived even in our own communities. All right. Um, Shibukazaki says it was devalued just on us living in our community by filling our communities with drugs. Exactly. Exactly. Every hood movie premise is getting Right. Every hood movie premise is getting out of the hood. You gotta get out of here. That's the idea. We gotta get out of here. So we got a better life, so on and so forth, which is absolute nonsense. Because we tend to have the same problems no matter where we live. That's in Deuteronomy. You will be cursed in the city and cursed in the field. Paraphrasing, of course, but that's the truth. Every hood movie is, oh, we gotta get out of here. We need to gather ourselves together, and if they could leave us the hell alone, we'd be fine. All right, let's keep going. Uh, hold on. Where was I? Hold on. True. Get a sister hand. She says, we the people never worked to build our hood to a viable neighborhood. Right. We used to. We used to. Again, before integration, we had to. Our communities had to be sound. Uh, um, we had to police ourselves. How many of y'all have heard about communities? You know, you go back far enough, but we didn't even have to lock doors. Anybody had to lock no doors. Everybody knew each other. It was really, you know, that whole, you know, whatever they're saying is, it takes a village to raise a child and all that. That's how we were. We were with each other for each other. But then integration came and we decided, you know what? I think Esau is better. I think white is right. And so we happily gave all of our resources to another nation. And then on top of that, Esau said, no problem. I'm going to pump drugs into your neighborhoods, into your communities. I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to take the man out of the family and out of the home. I'm going to destroy you. Officer Yagadar says, Salaki, that's crazy because if we had brotherhood and stayed and built, they would come and break bread, no doubt. Absolutely. Absolutely. If we had brotherhood, if we fully understood, if brothers were in the truth, if sisters were in the truth and knew the power that brotherhood is and that brotherhood is an absolute weapon, we wouldn't have these issues. And we won't have these issues eventually. Brothers just got to wake up. We got to continue to wake brothers up. We could police our own and make them saltines and heathens pay for the privilege of being in our space. Exactly. Exactly. And that's what we had to do as far as policing our own at one point. We did that. That's why we were able to have communities where people didn't have to lock doors. That's why we were able to have communities where people knew the things that were going on. Brothers knew the things that were going on in their communities and they took care of it. Brothers knew it. Hey, who touched that little sister? What? Okay, we're gonna take care of him. We're gonna go take care of him. We're gonna make sure that that don't happen again. But we don't do that now because we wanted to be part of the oppressor's world. We wanted to serve his God. We wanted to be around him as if that made us more valuable. That's why we have to come back to these law, statutes, and commandments and get in these classes and understand who we are as a people. We don't listen. If you're not in the ISUPK, you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are. You're not following your culture. If you are a Christian in the world, you don't know who you are and you're not following your culture. If you are a Muslim, you don't know who you are and you're not following your culture. There are law there are laws in this book that and me and the brothers were talking about it before. I mean, you could take 3 or 4 laws. Take 3 or 4 laws. It would wipe out like 90% of the issues we have in the community, in our community. Don't deal drugs and don't sleep with another man's woman. Just take those two. Don't deal drugs and don't sleep with another man's woman. If we could do that in our communities consistently, I swear like 75, 80, 90% of the problems would go away. You take the dietary law, you put some of those in place, now all of a sudden we don't have high blood pressure. Now all of a sudden our people as a whole don't have high cholesterol. Now we're not number one in every health issue. That's what the laws, statutes, and commandments can do for us and do for us in the school. And if you're not in here, I mean, Lord be with you, but it's lucky. Lord be with you, but come on in. Stop. Come overnight. Exactly. As far as the drugs and stuff like that, listen, it would like that. It would switch like that. It would switch. Having love for your brother, having compassion for your people. Like we spend so much time, effort, and money into working to better a better life, to build a better life. It's lucky that we don't realize once there were, once there, they will find a way to put us in prison to a harder life. They will never fully accept. Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you got some of our brothers that and sisters that maybe get into those spaces and feel like, well, they're accepting me and blah 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 blah. And you know what? You have no love for your people. You have no compassion for your people. You don't give a damn about anybody else but yourself. You have to realize that. If that's your perspective, that you did it so everybody else should, you did it so everybody else can, you don't give a damn about your people. You hate your people. All right, let's keep going. Um, it says, I'm just going to start back at the beginning. I have to think. It says, white families in high income areas in Northern Virginia have benefited to varying degrees from inherited wealth. That's just the reality. It says, although some people's high socioeconomic status work their way up from poverty, a large number of successful white families benefited from property ownership, education, savings, promotions, and other systematic advantages that social structures offered their parents and prior generations. Absolutely true. And even when he made the comment about working your way up to a higher socioeconomic status, you know what that is? That's Esau looking out for Esau. That's what that is. Because as the oppressor got uh, beneficial financing for businesses and education and homes and started to build up wealth, guess what else he did? He started giving his people opportunities. He started giving his people opportunities to become wealthy. Absolutely. Get a brother a hand, aka white privilege. Exactly. Exactly. And the reason why they can't see it and they shouldn't see it is because to them it's not a privilege. Just to them, it's just, they're looking out for their people. That's what they're supposed to do. We need to learn how to do it. We need to learn how to do it. These people so-called coming up from socioeconomic and poverty and all that stuff, sure. Okay. It's because your people are the primary beneficiaries of slave labor, beneficial financing, GI Bill, redlining, all of that stuff. Your people were benefited from all of that, and it was purposeful. It was absolutely purposeful. All right, let's keep going. Because many black people of the same era were systematically denied these resources for upward mobility, lacking the transgenerational transfer of wealth that occurred in successful white families, and were often at an economic disadvantage before they were even born. This is Israelites. Khan, Khan, sharecropping, exactly. Jim Crow, welfare, copyright laws. Government assistance was only available to whites. All systematic oppression. Immigration assistance. That's a great one. People come from Europe and even Africa. They get beneficial assistance from coming over here as immigrants. And that's why it's so in their mind it's so easy to look at our people and our communities like, well, why y'all not doing better? Because they came over here, was here 6 months and opened the store. Because they got immigration assistance. Open the store in our communities. Kanwakan, Asians, Arabs, East Indians, right? All of these nations come over here and get immigration assistance, set up stores in our communities, and then take our resources out. And then they look at us like something's wrong with us because they did it. I did it? Why can't you? Another good point. Get a brother a hand. We inherit debt; they inherit legacies. Con. We are destroyed as a people, as this said, from a financial perspective, oftentimes before we're even born. We ain't took our first breath yet, and we got debt purposefully. The sister hand. She said free education and loans to start businesses. Exactly. Exactly. All right. So the structural conditions set by society meaning Esau, that's who society is in this country, often rooted in systematic racism and the insidious ways wealth inequality has been allowed to compound over time. And that's what people don't want to realize. When the brother talked about white privilege, that's what this is. When you had our forefathers or foremothers enslaved for centuries, and then you systematically discriminated and beat us down for another 100 years, and now you continue to do it. It's just more subtle. We got 10 minutes left. Oh nope, we're going to it now. They continue to do it. Because they the real benefactors of civil rights and integration. Huh. Matter of fact, even again, you can take it all the way back to the Emancipation Proclamation, right? They freed the slaves. Who got paid when they did that? Because somebody got paid when the Emancipation Proclamation hit. Who got paid? They cut checks to some people. Who can tell me who? There you go. The Officer Yagadar hand. The slave owners got checks. The slave owners. Khan Khan. The slave owners were compensated when they lost their property because we were freed as a people. Our oppressor is the devil the Bible speaks of. All right. It says as of 2017, all right, because again, we're talking about home ownership and how this has affected our communities. As of 2017, prospective black homeowners were denied mortgages at a rate 80% higher than that of white applicants. The gap between white and Salaki, the gap between black and white homeowners is even wider today than it was in 1960. This is the stat I was telling y'all about earlier. Got people out here, especially black folks, they love to say, well, it ain't as bad as it was. That is nonsense. That is an absolute lie. It's more subtle now. But we have home ownership at a lower rate now than we did in the 1960s, which was before the so-called civil rights movement. Just from an economic perspective, we're worse off now than we were in the 1960s as a people. But what people will do is say, well, you got Jay-Z, you got Kanye and Oprah and all these NBA players and these NFL players and all these rappers and all this. Oh, y'all are doing great. No, we are worse off as a whole from an economic perspective than we were. What is that? That is 63 years ago. And before the so-called civil rights movement. We're worse off today. Sister says that's because they stuff us in subsidized housing that we don't own. I believe you're talking about like rental property section 8 and stuff. Is that right, sis? Let me know. Uh, this goes on. It says pricing pressures like it continue to restrict property ownership among black families who lack the inherited wealth of white buyers. Okay, sister said con right. Because what happens now is you have property developers, they come in, property owners, they come in, buy up the whole block, rent it out in Section 8. And our people are so beaten down, we don't have the resources. We still have, battle with wages and income and all that. So then we have to rent. Whereas at least back in the 60s, we had our own communities. The values were already down, so we could afford it. We just had to live with our people, which we should be doing anyway. We should be doing that anyway. That's the most beneficial thing for us. To stay around each other, hold each other accountable. Again, that's what we do in the ISUPK. Our brotherhood is with each other. We celebrate the most high holy days that are in the Bible together. We communicate with each other. We get counsel from each other. We learn from each other. Officers, captains, and generals. That's how it should be. We gather ourselves together. If you are listening, if you are watching this class, and you are not in the school, make the phone call. Contact the school to get in class. Become part of this body to participate in the work that needs to be done to continue to wake our people up. All right. But again, it says the price and pressures continue to restrict property ownership among black families who lack the inherited wealth of white buyers. Now, this is the deal. And this is the reality. Let's say that they never bothered our communities, but we still had to be by ourselves. No problem. We had to be together. No problem. and they left us alone, right? This started in the early 1900s. Your great great grandmother, your great great grandfather would have had a piece of property that they lived in until they died and handed it down to your grandmother or grandfather, and that would have then been handed down to you and handed. You see how that happened, where all you had to do was just leave us alone? It's not about joining with this oppressor. It's about joining with each other. It's about being satisfied, being, I don't even know if that's a good word. It's about following the Most High's instructions, which is gathering yourselves together. O nation not desired. Follow the law, statutes, and commandments. Have this brotherhood. Right. Imagine having no rent or no mortgage because you inherited property from your family. Imagine saying this house or this land has been in my family's name for generations. That's the way it's supposed to be. But this wicked oppressor again destroyed our communities, and then he destroyed the communities that we built, set us in other communities, limited our resources, and either left them dilapidated or then took them out again and rebuilt them up. And that continues to happen today. We were just in downtown Newport News yesterday, and you can see that entire area being gentrified. Brotherhood and sisterhood is love, not the world's perspective of crabs in a barrel. Exactly. Exactly. The world's perspective is selfish. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's Esau's perspective. Some of these other, it is and it's not. This is the whole thing. They understand that they're supposed to look out for their people. They just tell us that nonsense. They tell us to just look out for ourselves. They know they're supposed to look out for each other at the end of the day. They know they're supposed to stick together ultimately. All these nations do. That's why you have Little Italy and Chinatown and the Jewish community and all these other communities, Korean communities, all of them stick together. Now they might be for themselves, a little bit, but at the end of the day, they're gonna stick with each other. They're gonna look out for each other. They just tell us that nonsense, and we soak it up like like it's true. All right. All right. We are just over time. I did not get through everything. Y'all bear with me just a few more minutes because I want to, I want to give y'all some highlights and again some examples of uh, the things that we did. Where am I? Yeah, here we go. I want to give y'all some examples of the things uh, that we did. Bear with me. Khan, Christianity teaches us to depend on Jesus, meaning it's nobody's responsibility. Right. Khan. It's nobody's responsibility. We don't have a responsibility to each other. We don't have responsibility to anything. It's just Jesus. Individualism destroys us. Exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what happens. Now, if I can get my computer over here working right, come on. Here we go. Okay. Um, and this is just an example again of us building up our communities. It says some black contractors built homes for black families that white builders turned away. Two formerly enslaved men, Henry Holmes and William Butler, became developers, building the Butler Home subdivision in Penrose, in the Penrose section of Arlington in 1882. And Richard Drew, an Arlington carpenter, put his son through medical school. Dr. Charles Drew pioneered blood transfusion for the military and became known as the father of blood banking. This is our people. Education. We didn't get into education tonight. We may do it next week, Lord willing. We'll see. But it says when when the Union Army occupied Alexandria early in the Civil War, the black community began opening schools at a remarkable speed, led by women such as Annabelle Davis, Mary Chase, Jane Crouch, and Harriet Jacobs. The Columbia Street School and St. Rose Institute opened in 1861. The first select colored school, Beulah Normal and Theological Institute, and Leland Warren School opened in 1862. The Uniontown School, Sickles Barracks School, and Newton School opened in 1863, and the Jacobs Free School opened in 1864. That's, I don't know how many schools in 3 years. These ladies were making sure that our children were educated. We don't need the suppressor. We're fine absolutely by ourselves. And that's what we need to understand as a people. We do not need the suppressor. We need each other. And with that, I say Yahweh Shem Yahshabakatah, Shalaki Yahweh Shem Yahshabakathum to the brothers, Yahweh Shemor Alathan by Shem Yahweh Shai to the sisters. Class dismissed.